When doing the Atomy business, do not focus on money or rank-centered marketing. That will inevitably lead to ruin. Focus on people-centered marketing. Work on increasing your consumers and nurturing your downline partners into leaders. Already, the wise people who've lived in this world all say the same thing. You and your subordinates will experience personal growth. If you and your subordinates achieve personal growth, the organization will grow. However, if you nurture your subordinates into leaders, the organization will grow explosively. You should not take the words of those wise people lightly. If you take lightly the words of those sages who have written history, what happens? You end up becoming a laughingstock yourself. Don't take them lightly. Personal development, my knowledge, the personal development of your partners, that's good. If you do that, the organization will grow. However, if you want your organization to succeed explosively, you need to nurture your partners into leaders. That's what a people-centered business is. It's people-centered marketing. Chairman Chung Ju-young once gave a lecture at an elementary school, and I read about it. A little kid asked the question, "Grandpa, people often say that you are truly very rich. How exactly? Did you manage to become so incredibly wealthy?" Since he was talking to elementary school students, Chairman Chung Ju-young must have given a sincere answer. He said, "Becoming rich is like climbing a mountain, like this. Here, this is precisely where the truly rich are, right here. This particular person is indeed rich. It's very much like climbing a challenging mountain. But if you only ever look at the very top while you're climbing from down here, you simply won't make it. You won't make it. Oh dear, how will I ever get all the way up there?" And if you keep looking only at the top, you'll trip over a rock and fall. So, to climb that mountain, if you just focus on taking one step at a time, looking only ahead, before you know it, you have reached the top. That's the path to becoming rich. You shouldn't just look at the top. Why? Because the path up here is full of rocks, stones, grass roots, and tree roots. If you can't overcome these, you won't be able to reach the top. You just won't make it. Let me start by sharing a simple saying. It's by Albert Gray. He's not a very famous person, but even though he wasn't very well known, he became quite famous. You know Prudential Insurance, right? He was in charge of training at the headquarters of Prudential Insurance in the US. There are a lot of insurance salespeople in the US as well. A huge number, actually. There are many people there who have made a lot of money as insurance salespeople too. But what always troubled him was, even though all the salespeople worked hard, why did some achieve great results while others didn't? He couldn't figure it out. Everyone worked hard. Yes. But while some people achieved truly amazing results, others just couldn't make it. But only a handful of people actually achieved those amazing results. He started to wonder, what caused this difference? This person did. So he read almost all the biographies of great figures throughout history. How did these people become so remarkable? How did they achieve such great success? And he observed all the Prudential Insurance salespeople. I discovered something. This is it. This one thing is different. What exactly is different about successful people? After thoroughly investigating, he found that success had nothing to do with education, work experience, or anything like that. There was no connection, but there was still something different. One thing is different, just one thing. You have no idea, right? That's because you've never thought about it. It's not that you don't know because you're not smart. This is what he discovered. Successful people consistently do the things that unsuccessful people are unwilling to do. That is the one crucial thing. Why are poor people poorest in that speech? Why do poor people live as poor people? To escape poverty, you need to know certain things and you have to meet and talk to people you don't like. But because they don't want to do that, they end up choosing poverty. That's what most people do. So when you were in high school, what did you have to do to get into the department of your choice at the university you wanted? To get into the department you want at the university you want, you have to do the things that other students don't want to do. That's what those students did. How? By not sleeping when they wanted to sleep and by not going to the movies when they wanted to go. They want to do it, but they don't, right? They want to hang out, but they don't. They do the things that others don't want to do. So the only difference between people who succeed and those who fail is just one thing. It's not about education or age or really anything else. But when people truly try to avoid doing things they genuinely don't want to do, what exactly should they do about it? How? Precisely. They rationalize it. It's not that I don't do it because I don't want to. It's more like, well, having money doesn't necessarily make you happy. Albert Gray made it clear that this is the difference between successful and unsuccessful people. They look for reasons to rationalize it. That's exactly what Albert Gray discovered. He observed that people with poor performance simply avoided meeting people they didn't want to meet. But those with good performance kept meeting those people and tried to persuade them. So that's the difference. So people with poor performance only meet the people they want to meet. If someone makes them feel bad, they just don't meet them. Success isn't about only doing precisely what you truly want to do. All right? Look at the PPT. Now, Gyeongdan Jupsim. This Gyeong character is the Gyeong from Durabakju, well bucket rope. The well bucket rope. You know the old well buckets in the countryside, right? Drawing water from a well, piling it up like this. Dan means short. Jap means to draw. Sim means water or deep water. So Gyeongdang Gyapsim means that if the well bucket rope is short, you can't draw water from a deep well. In other words, it's not that there's no water in the well. There is water, but because the well bucket rope is short, you can't draw it up. As knowledge, information, and society continue to develop, the total amount of well water increases, but the depth also gets deeper and deeper. So, what should you do to succeed? You need to accumulate capital. Capital, you have to make the well bucket rope longer. Right now, there's a huge amount of water in the well, but the rope is too short. How can you draw it up like that? There's no way. You must lengthen the well bucket rope. That's capital accumulation. It's about systems, participation, communication, collective effort, humility, and learning. Humility is the most important factor. Without humility, you can never succeed. That's it. That's what we're aiming for right now. The success defined here is not a philosophical proposition. This is what we consider success. First, stable high income is considered success. Yeah. So how do you achieve that? You need to accumulate capital. Without capital, you can never succeed. Then how do you accumulate capital? It all comes down to your attitude. Your attitude is about what kind of mindset you have and what attitude you take as you learn. I'm not talking about whether you have a high social academic background or a good social career. All right, next. Now, this is a story from Zhuangzi. If your bundle is small, you can't carry big things. If your bundle is small, you can't pack large items. If your perspective is narrow, you can't reach deep understanding. It means that if your bucket rope is short, you can't draw water from deep wells. From this comes the idiom, araz, short rope, deep well. This phrase appears in several places in the classics. That means this is really important. Even in ancient times, people emphasize that if the resources you have are smalleth, your bucket's rope is short, you can't draw water from a deep well. They stress this point. It's mentioned in various places in the classics. Now, next, humility. Humility. Humility means listening attentively to others. It means acknowledging that there are many things you don't know. Only then can you accumulate capital. Now, next. Who is this? It's Lord Mang Sasa. Mang Sa. King Sejong was able to achieve such truly great and significant accomplishments not by himself alone, but through the collective efforts and dedication of many individuals. It was possible because of outstanding ministers like Mang Sa-song and Huang Hui. Lord Mang Sa-seong was extremely upright, lived in poverty, yet led an outstanding life. He passed the state examination at a very young age, so he was full of pride. Back then, if you passed the state exam, it was like becoming a county governor today. During the Japanese occupation, passing the civil service exam made you a county governor. At 25, he became a county governor. One day, Lord Mang Sa-seong went to his post as county governor. So he thought, I hear there's a famous monk in this area. I should go see him and ask how I should govern, and so he went to visit. So he asked, Venerable monk, I am the new county governor here. How should I govern this place? And the monk replied, well, you just need to be honest and do your job well. He got that answer. But Mang Sa-seong thought, who would come all the way here just to hear something like that? Who doesn't already know that kind of thing? How should I go about the Atomy business? Just be honest and work hard. That's the advice he was given. So he thought, do you think I came all the way here just to hear that? Why? Because he was full of pride at the time. So the monk said, no, don't be like that. Since you've come all this way, at least have a cup of tea before you go. So he sat down, and as soon as he brought the teacup to his lips, the monk kept pouring tea, letting it overflow and spill all over, soaking the hem of his robe. He asked, what is this supposed to mean? Then the monk said, you notice when your robe gets wet, but why don't you notice when your character is being tainted? He was so shocked, completely taken aback, embarrassed. He tried to rush out, but ended up hitting his head on the doorframe. He just smacked right into it. But the monk laughed heartily and said, if you bow your head, you won't bump into things. And so he lived the rest of his life with humility. If you bow your head, you won't bump into things. He learned a very important lesson from that. This person was none other than Prime Minister Huang Hui. And the one who made the best use of Huang Hui was King Sejong. You know, in this world, he lived a long life too. He lived to 87, serving as an official for 73 years until he was 87. At that time, there were 6 ministerial positions called the 6 ministries ministers. He served in all of them. Ministry of Personnel, Ministry of Taxation, Ministry of Rights, Ministry of Defense, Ministry of Public Works, all 6 ministries, all of them. So basically, he was a Minister of Education, Minister of the Interior, Minister of Defense, Minister of Construction, and Minister of Justice, all of them. And then he served as Chief State Counsel for 18 years. So this man wanted to keep working, always saying, Your Majesty, my health is poor, so it's difficult for me to come to work. He said this to King Sejong. So Sejong replied, oh, is that so? Then don't come to work. Just stay at home. Because he knew what kind of person this man was. For King Sejong, it was enough that this man was simply alive and breathing, even now. Then, when he turned 80, he said, Your Majesty, I can't even sit up anymore. So Sejong said, then just keep lying down. Why did he do that? Just having this man around meant that state affairs were running smoothly. State affairs. When this man presided over meetings, he never spoke first. He would keep listening to what the other officials had to say, fully grasp the situation, and only then would he speak. So no one had any complaints. Right? Now, you all know Helen Keller, right? Helen Keller was also born very healthy, but at just 10 months old, she came down with a fever. A fever. Because of that, she couldn't see or hear. If you can't hear, what happens automatically? You can't speak. But someone like her graduated from Harvard with honors. She was the first person in the world with such disabilities to graduate from college. So if Helen Keller could do it, can you really say, I can't because my circumstances are bad? That just doesn't make sense. The reason Helen Keller could become who she was is because she had a teacher named Anne Sullivan. If there had been no Anne Sullivan, there would have been no Helen Keller either. Anne Sullivan was extremely unfortunate, so very unfortunate. Her family was completely ruined. Her younger sibling died. She lost her sight, and she nearly went insane, eventually being admitted to a hospital. The doctors had completely given up on her. They basically wrote her off as a lunatic. So they just waited for her to die and locked her up in a basement cell. But a retired elderly nurse searched for Anne Sullivan for 6 months. For 6 months. After searching for her for 6 months, Anne Sullivan was deeply moved by that love. And as a result, her health started to improve because she was touched by that love. So what does that mean? It means Anne Sullivan's heart was wounded. But this elderly woman, the retired nurse, kept bringing food to her for 6 months, and whenever she did, Anne would just pick it up and throw it away. But even so, the elderly woman kept doing this for 6 months. Thanks to that, Anne Sullivan was able to return to normal. That's why Anne Sullivan made a decision. Life is about choices. She thought, I want to dedicate my life to helping those who are unfortunate. She decided, I want to spend my life helping people who are as unfortunate as I am. That's how she became Helen Keller's teacher. And it was Anne Sullivan who turned Helen Keller into one of the most remarkable people in the world. He served as a mentor for 49 years until his death. A mentor is not just a teacher. A mentor is someone who is a friend, a parent, a teacher, and everyone else. Mentor. Without this mentor, there would be no Helen Keller. Okay, next up. Now, the Odyssey. The Odyssey is a story of adventure, and the Iliad is a story of war. When you leave the house in the morning, like you did today, what begins the moment you step out of your home? An adventure begins. Adventure. And the moment you arrive at work, what begins? War begins. Hey, Assistant Manager Kim, is this all you can do with your work? That's what the manager said. So what happens there? A war starts with the manager. Therefore, Homer's two works, the Odyssey and the Iliad well, all works, all literary works, all philosophy is Homer. That's it. Life begins its adventure when you leave home, when you are born, but as soon as you enter society, the war begins. War. Am I rich? Do you truly desire to become wealthy and prosperous? The epic and momentous war is about to begin. Experience the incredible journey of Odyssey in this grand and legendary Odyssey, where Odyssey is a powerful and revered king, prince, Telemachus. I went to war when I was young, so he leaves Telemachus in the care of his friend, mentor. But he went to war, to the Trojan War, and didn't come back for 20 years. This hasn't come back in 20 years. Then what would have happened? But during those 20 years, Mentor raised Telemachus to become an excellent prince. That's where the word mentor comes from. By the way, there's a scholar named Napoleon Hill who wrote The Laws of Success. In the field of success studies, he's considered one of the pioneers. He referred to this as a mastermind group. He said that no one in this world can succeed alone. Every great person had someone who helped them. No one can succeed on their own. So, like this, your line, your center what are all of these. These are what make up a mastermind group. By communicating like this, you gain new ideas and fresh energy, and that's how you can move forward. This is written in Napoleon Hill's book, The Laws of Success. Now, a famous quote from Helen Keller. Life is either a daring adventure or nothing at all. It's an adventure. Now, walking with a friend in the dark is better than walking alone in the light. Next, there is something worse than being blind. Being able to see but having no vision. I hope you have a vision. A vision is not an empty dream or fantasy. There must be a clear logical basis for it. If you say, this is my vision, but there is no logical basis for it, then it's just boasting or daydreaming. All right, next. Now, if you really want to succeed, you have to pay the opportunity cost. If you try to have it both ways, you might end up tearing yourself apart. Nothing will work out. Opportunity cost refers to the resources you can't use for something else because you chose one thing over another. This exists in any economy. For example, if you came here today, you had to give up the opportunity to go somewhere else. That's what we call cost. That's what we call an expense. Otherwise, you can't go here and there at the same time. You can't go hiking and study at the same time. You have to give up one of the two. Trying to succeed in Atomy without paying that opportunity cost, it doesn't work that way. That's just not how the laws of economics work. All right, next. I'll talk about egocentric bias up to this point and then wrap up. This is about human thievery. Human is egocentric. It's called egocentric bias. You might think, that person's always playing around, but they get a lot of bonuses and their rank goes up quickly. But why is it that even though I'm working so hard, my feet are burning, things aren't working out for me? That's what egocentric bias is. Other people's work looks easy, and it seems like others make money effortlessly, so why can't I? That's what we call egocentric bias. But why does it happen? It's because you know all the hardships you've been through, but you have no idea about the hardships your friend has faced. So when you look at your friend, it just seems like they're always having fun and things are going well for them. It's not that they're just having fun, it's actually this. Where does this show up? Well, the best example is at a buffet restaurant. At a buffet, there are so many things to eat. So you pick out what looks delicious to you and start eating, but then you look at the person next to you and what they have looks even tastier. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. When someone else does it, it looks tastier and easier. But that's not how it works. That's what I'm saying. In other words, you can't succeed without putting in an absolute amount of time. Now, let's look at the conclusion. Burden's donkey. This refers to the philosopher Burden. What this means is, this starving donkey was so hungry that as it was walking, it saw some delicious hay over here. But as it was about to eat it, it noticed there was more over there. It spent the whole night agonizing over which one to eat and ended up starving to death. That's Burden's donkey. It's the difficulty of making a decision. Now, next, Socrates' apple. Socrates' disciples asked, "Teacher, how can we live a good life?" So Socrates said, "Shall I tell you? Follow me." He led them into an apple orchard and said, "From this end to the other, each of you pick the very best apple you can find." They thought, well, that's not so hard. But when they got to the very end, they realized they had all picked terrible apples. That's because there were good ones in the middle. But they thought, if I go a little further, there might be even better ones. There might be better ones ahead. So when they all met at the end, they ended up picking from the trees at the very edge, which were shabby and worthless, and all they got were bad apples. "Teacher, can't you give me just one more chance?" "No, I can't. In life, you can't go back." That's what life is. Make your own decisions with your own convictions. In other words, while searching for a prince on a white horse when there's only one prince later on, you find yourself with the coachman who drives the white horse instead. That's not how it should be. If you keep looking only for Chanyang, in the end, you'll end up with Hangdan instead. What I'm saying is make your own decisions with your own convictions. You might think, there must be something better than this. But if you keep searching, you might end up like Buridan's donkey, starving to death because you can't decide. Or like Socrates' apple, picking the worst one and claiming it's yours. Now, lastly, let's talk about knowledge and ignorance. This isn't about how much or how little knowledge you have.
All scholars ask, do you know whether you are ignorant or not?
That's the key. Those who know are called knowledgeable, and those who don't are called ignorant. Attitude is important. That's why it's crucial what kind of attitude, mindset, and mental approach you have when you do this business. Whether I have a lot of knowledge or a little, whether my social career is high or low, none of that matters at all. All right, next. This person here. He was someone who couldn't even pay his rent, but now he's a billionaire in America, running about 50 companies. This person says, attitude is everything. He even shouts this out while climbing a mountain. There are also many books published on this topic in our country. Attitude is everything. When he looked back on why he succeeded, he realized that once he changed his attitude to I will succeed, he actually did succeed. Now, I hope that all of you achieve great success with Atomy in 3 or 5 years. Thank you.